Hi, welcome. Today we're going to be making elderflower cordial. So I'm just heading out into the garden. As you can see, beautiful time of year. Lots of gorgeous flowers. Coming up. As you can see, the garden is pretty much alive with loads of beautiful plants. Gorgeous peonies. We cut these back last year and they've come up quite fiercely this year actually. Apple trees have not quite blossomed yet, but we've got some beautiful elderflower that has just come into bloom. So it's going to be these beautiful blossoms that I'm going to be using in our elderflower cordial today. You can see that I am completely spoilt for choice here. Best time of year to pick them as well before they start to turn. You can see some of these haven't quite flowered yet, but my aim is that I will probably collect about a half, if not maybe a quarter of these for flowers, and then let the rest actually go to become berries, which I will use later in the year for jam, making a most superb jam. And you can see how there's some over here as well. So I really am spoilt for choice about where to pick my elder flowers from, but I think this is going to be my main place to collect. Right, I think we're just about ready to collect our elderflower heads. Now the recipe that I use is normally the Good Food Guide recipe, but of course over the years I've adapted it with various sort of tweaks of my own, which I'll show you a little bit later. But the recipe itself says to collect 20 heads. Now generally I would say if you like your cordial quite strong, then if you're going to do 20 heads, then do 20 really nice big blossoms that have got lots and lots and lots of flowers on, rather than 20 small ones. Or if you don't have the choice and you've only got smaller, a choice of smaller heads, then maybe go for 25. I quite like quite a strong cordial, so I tend to err on more rather than less. So got my bucket, got my secateurs, because we want to make sure that we're collecting sustainably and we're not going to break any of the stems that we don't want to be using just now. So I'm going to go ahead and collect 25 heads for the recipe that we're doing today, and I'll check back in with you later once I've collected. Oh, by the way, just so you know, you're only going to be using the top part of the blossom or the flower. We don't actually want any of this long sort of stalk here. You don't have to cut off any individuals, but I tend to just take off the top part here, which is the part that I'm going to be putting in, ideally not to break them, so I'm going to use my secateurs. So check back in with me in a couple of minutes when I've collected my heads. Right, so there we have it. We've collected our flower heads, and you can see that I've gone for some really nice, well packed sort of flower heads, and you can see that I've cut the stem away because I'm only going to be using the top. Obviously when I teach this in class or when I'm doing forest school, we often talk to the children about the benefits that flowers play within nature, and we always run by the rule that whatever we're collecting, we only collect a quarter, or basically what we need. We never take anything more than what we need, because these beautiful blossoms obviously play a wider part in nature, and even when I'm standing here collecting these, I'm surrounded by bees and flies and beetles, lots of pollinators just getting on and doing their job. So we only take what we need, and we've got that. So we're going to go and see how our sugar syrup is doing. Still sort of warming up on the oven, on the hob, and then we're going to see what we need to do next to start putting our cordial together. Right, so once you put your sugar in your water, put it on a lowish heat on the hob, and just give it a little stir every now and then until all your sugar has dissolved. This will actually give you a really thick sugary syrup, which is exactly what you want. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit sort of stuck in my ways, and I always like to use a wooden spoon whenever I'm making any of my jams and things. I don't know why. I'm sure it doesn't make any difference to the taste, but this is my special spoon. This one here says Nanny's Magic Mixer, was gifted to me by my lovely grandchildren, so I tend to use this whenever I'm making any jams or cordials or even cakes. Anyway, keep stirring. This might take a little bit of time. Try not to be tempted to put your hob on high, because what you don't want to do is burn any of the sugar on the bottom. And some gentle stirring until all of this has diluted into a sort of saturated solution. Okay, so I brought the rest of the operation outside. Such a beautiful day. Seems a shame not to use the garden to finish this off. So in here I've got my sugary solution. Now I'm keeping this covered because this nice sugary solution seems to be attracting the attention of quite a few pollinators, if not a few naughty escapee ducks that are in totally the wrong place. But we're not going to that just yet. Anyway, as I was saying, we have everything we need now. We've got our citric acid. We only need about 85 grams of citric acid, so I've already weighed this out. And citric acid is really easy to get hold of. Personally, I just buy mine online. If you're someone who makes wines and beers at home, you'll probably have this at home already with you. Personally, most recipes say get from a supermarket. I found it really hard to find citric acid in the supermarket. Easiest thing is just to go online. I think this cost me a couple of pounds just to buy about 250 grams there. We have our elderflower blossoms, we have our sugar syrup, we've got our cutting board, and we also have our peeler to pare the zest off of these. So when I was talking earlier on about putting my sort of own spin on this, the recipe says to use 2 unwaxed lemons. Over the years I've sort of found that I quite like mine quite citrusy as well, so I now add in sliced orange, and I also take the zest and the juice from a lime as well. It depends on how citrusy you like yours. It's just a recipe that I've sort of tweaked over the years. So far we've got 25 heads. We've got a sugar syrup that's made up of 1.5 litres of water and 2.5 kilos of white sugar. Now you'll see that even when you sort of sort your sugar out, it's only just starting to clear. It may not clear totally. It has a sort of grain, but if you run your spoon across the bottom to make sure that all your grains have dissolved, you shouldn't be able to pick up any sugar grains at the bottom. This obviously is very, very, very syrupy and very sweet. So I'm keeping it covered so that we don't have any unwanted visitors, as we say, into our syrup. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add the citric acid, but I'm not going to do that just yet. But I need to prepare the lemons, the limes and the oranges. So I'm just going to take off the zest from the lemons and the lime. I'm not going to do that for the orange. I'm just going to slice the orange so that the orange is in bits, and then I'm going to add everything in. So check back in with me when I've prepared all our limes and our lemons and oranges. Okay, so welcome back. Now I have prepared all the oranges, the lemons and the limes. Now you'll see that I've cut the oranges into slices. I'm not doing anything with those. Those are just going straight in, as is the peel. So we've got the lemon and the lime peel here, but the limes and the lemons I am actually going to squeeze the juice from those, but then don't discard the rest of it. Just chuck the whole rest of the lemon and that in. Now when you are pairing off, just do be careful. I mean, obviously a potato peeler is the best thing, not to take too much of the pith. We don't want the sort of like the pith there. So this is really great because you don't actually end up with loads of pith if you use that potato peeler. So the next thing to do is uncover. Now don't be too stressed if you do get the odd unwanted visitor, because you are going to strain this in the end. So we're going to remove our cloth. You can see our sugar syrup has sort of cleared itself up now, which is sort of absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to pop the oranges in. Everything's going to get a big stir up once all the flowers and stuff go in. And we're going to put our peel in. And you can give that a little bit of a stir around, mix it all up. At this point I am going to put the citric acid in, so 85 grams of citric acid, and then obviously give that a really good stir. You want that to be really mixed in to your sugary syrup, which is fantastic. And then all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to squeeze the juice from these lemons. And once I've squeezed the juice from the lemons, I'm just going to drop the lemon in. I'm not going to waste anything, so everything's being used. So you can see how this could have a real lovely sort of citrusy spin on there as well. I love limes. I have done a limoncello before, which was absolutely divine. Right, so once all your fruits are in and your juices have squeezed out, give that a nice big stir. We are now going to add the flowers. So let me come around here and I'll show you what we're going to do. Now I always place my flowers sort of face down, if you like. Now the trick with this is do not wash your flowers, because you want the pollen and you want the nectar. If you are collecting blossoms, always collect those ones from higher up. Obviously you don't want low blossoms or anything that's anywhere near, can be sort of weed on by various sort of like animals. I try and avoid collecting anything sort of from the side of the road, because obviously you've got car pollution in the air. If you must wash them, just give them a quick sort of dip in and out. Don't sort of really go to town on it, because you lose all that lovely goodness that's in those flowers. So personally, I don't wash mine. I just have a little quick check, give them a little bit of a shake, get any sort of like bugs and things on. But like I said, it's not the end of the world if you do, because you can be straining this anyway. And then what I do is I will then just place my flowers head down and then push them in to the syrup solution. And then I'm going to repeat that with all of my heads. A little quick shake, press them in and push them face down until I've got all my 25 heads in. And we'll have a little look and see what that looks like. Okay, so everything's in our pot. We now just need to give this a little bit of time to steep. Obviously, the longer we can leave it, I wouldn't leave it for any more than about 2 days. Generally, I tend to leave mine basically overnight, so I'll probably come back to this tomorrow afternoon to strain. But as you can see, I've very carefully pressed down all of the flowers so they're underneath the syrup. Don't worry too much about the fruit. All that goodness from the fruit is all going to be coming out into that syrup, which is absolutely fantastic. My hands are so sticky at the moment where I keep touching this syrup. I'm surprised I'm not being chased around the garden by bees. Now, as I said, just need to give that a cover. If you've got a lid for your saucepan, you can pop a lid on. Personally, I am just going to chuck over my dishcloth, and I'm going to pop that back in onto the hob and then just forget about that basically until tomorrow. And then tomorrow we're going to strain it through a piece of cheesecloth and a colander and collect, we only want the juice, we don't want any of the other bits and pieces, and the other bits and pieces can be composted nice and easily, and then it's ready to be bottled straight away. And then we'll talk about options tomorrow about how you're going to store and keep your cordial, depending on whether or not you want to keep it for a longer length of time or whether you're happy just to drink it straight away. So check back in 24 hours and we'll talk about our options then. So here we are 24 hours later and our syrup is completely done now. So we're going to need a few things to help us finish off. So we've got a jug to collect our syrup in, we've got a funnel to help put our syrup into our bottles, and I've got a colander and a very much loved jam bag. So I'm going to use both of these to make sure we get as clear a cordial as possible. So if we have a look in here, we can see that our lovely syrup has been steeping now for 24 hours, and I wish you could smell this. The aromas coming up from this are absolutely glorious. I've got the overtones of those lovely flowers from the elderflower and those undertones of the citrus. So we're going to get everything prepared and then we're going to start to sieve our cordial, get rid of all the bits and pieces, and then hopefully we'll be left with a nice clear syrup. So there we have it. So once you have decanted all of your syrup, and I'm going to warn you now, you will get ridiculously sticky, you will see that we have ended up with nearly 3 litres of elderflower syrup. Now I've just used recycled soda bottles, but if you are going to pasteurize, you are going to need to make sure that you use glass bottles for this. Now obviously I've just recycled my bottles, but you can buy packs of bottles online. Right, so now once you do need to remember that this is also a cordial, so you do not drink this straight. You need to dilute this with other drinks, so things like lemonade, if you want to put it in prosecco, or you can just add this as you would a cordial with some water or some sparkling water, and enjoy.